The port has been very significant for the well-being and the growth of the city since the middle of the 19th century. It's been the motor, it's been the engine in the urban expansion of Aarhus for the last 117 years or so. So it's very, it's very hard to separate the city and the port, actually. It's no surprise that there is a lot of public discussion these days about the future of the harbor or of the port of Aarhus, because it has been a very significant, if not the single most significant factor of the urban expansion for many years. I think that the relationship between the port and the city or the residents of Aarhus has changed compared to earlier on, because a lot fewer people these days work regularly at the port, and not many people go there any longer. It doesn't mean that it is not as important as it used to be. It just means that it's not part of people's everyday lives compared to earlier. Well, that many more residents have a positive relationship or positive imagination of the bay and of the importance of the bay, because it's so visible, and it's a thing that appeals to people a lot more these days than a place like a port. It doesn't mean that the port is not important. It just means that it doesn't play a role in people's active everyday life. If, however, you go back 100 years, there would be no question that Aarhus was a manufacturing and industrial city that made its income from the harbor and from manufacture and from industry and trade. And everybody knew that. Since then, the economy of Aarhus has changed dramatically, you could say, because even though the harbor and the industry and so on is still very important for Aarhus, Aarhus nowadays is much more a city that rests on education and third sector economy, service economy. And I think when you come here as a guest or as a student or as an immigrant or as whatever, I think natural resources and natural qualities are very important for your well-being. You would like to live in an attractive environment, and naturally you would like to have a beautiful blue vision of the bay and forest and so on. So the identity of Aarhus has changed from being predominantly defined by trade and business to being predominantly defined by natural circumstance or natural qualities and service economy. So I think that's a major shift. A third group might be motivated by the feeling of loss, and the feeling of loss, I think, is very much attached to the feeling of identity of the city. So I suppose that you find all reasons or all kinds of motives being active. As a group, we are motivated by many different things, and that makes it almost impossible to, I think, follow the idea that we as a city has only one identity. I do think, however, that urban quality is much more important today than it used to be. And urban quality in Aarhus has a lot to do with the near presence of water and forests,